Welcome to Man in America, a voice of reason in a world gone mad. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse, and I first want to thank everybody for your patience. My studio has been down for the past almost 2 weeks now, and so I haven't been able to produce any content at all. I had one interview that was done beforehand, so we're finally back up and running. I will apologize in advance if there's any kind of tech issues tonight. There shouldn't be, but if there are, it's because we're just getting the system back up and going, and it's a crazy, crazy complex system. If I showed you what my studio looks like, we've got multiple computers and wires everywhere. I mean, it's not easy to do this. So anyway, it's great to be here with you tonight, and tonight's show it's a serious topic. It's a heavy topic. Of course, I'll try to present things in a way that gives you hope, and I will round out the episode this evening with how to fight back against this system that's coming down upon us, and actionable steps and things that empower you to take action to make sure you're keeping your freedom. But it's a dark topic, and it's the topic of it's the topic of technocracy, of a digital technocratic control system, a control grid that is being built around us. And a lot of the more recent energy behind me wanting to cover this topic ties into what we're seeing happening in the UK right now, with Keir Starmer announcing basically a mandatory digital ID, which I'll be getting into. But this is an issue that I've been tracking for many, many years now. So I have a lot to say about it. And so what tonight's show is going to look like, the overall structure is I've got a presentation I put together for you where I'm going to be outlining what I call the 5 pillars of technocracy, looking at what are the 5 major pillars that are used to create a control grid around us. How are they used? I'm going to give examples of how they're being rolled out and implemented around the world. And then what I'm going to be looking at those 5 pillars and then taking China as a study, as a use case of seeing exactly how they're being implemented in China right now. Because if you've looked at what's happening in China with their surveillance system, their social credit system, the AI integration into controlling their population, China is the pilot country for the rest of the world. And if we look at what life is like there, it's easier for us to see and understand what their plan is for life around the world. So it's really important to study what's happening there, because we can see, oh goodness, this is coming our way. We must stop. We must prevent this from happening. And so I'll be getting into all of that in the presentation tonight. And I just want to say that this is honestly, I think, the most serious topic of our time. Now, here in America, there's a lot of bread and circuses, and everyone's focused on, rightfully so, kind of debunking or digging into the Charlie Kirk assassination or any other false flags, what's happening with ICE right now and the protests. And so there's a lot of things happening. Our country there's a lot of very high tensions right now, and those high tensions pull our attention into them. And my concern, though, is that people aren't paying enough attention to the biggest issue, the biggest threat to our freedom, which is technocracy. And it's coming like a freight train. And I'm worried that a lot of people aren't even seeing it coming. They're just focused on the day-to-day without realizing that we could literally be in a digital gulag in a time well sooner than you might even imagine. So we're going to be getting into all that in today's presentation. Before we jump in, just a quick announcement, just an update. So as part of this, my own journey in fighting it back against this system, the greatest thing that I've realized is that we have to become independent. We have to build communities. We have to become self-reliant. We have to become as off-grid as we can. And I'll be getting into this more in the kind of conclusion of today's show in terms of what we can do. But one of the biggest things that I struggled with in my own journey when I moved from living in a high-rise in New York City back to out in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, in the countryside, which is great. We were, very much so off-grid in many ways. We had chickens and food and everything. I had such a hard time building a community. I couldn't find people. My neighbors were, oh, great, chickens, that's kind of fun. And it was a hobby for them. I couldn't find the people that matched up with me ideologically. And so a big project that I'm very close to launching right now is something called the ARC community. So if you go to the website buildthearc.com, you can sign up to join the waitlist to get into it. What it is it's a private community for all of us that think alike and have this idea of preserving our freedoms and banding together. It's a place where we can meet our fellow patriots and God-fearing Americans and people around the world, actually, and build relationships that are offline. So, find your local chapter, meet people, but it's about connecting with people that share your values, whether you want to find someone that is an expert in solar generators or an expert in raising chickens and connect with them and get information from them or exchange your satellite phone number. It's basically a platform to allow us to meet each other. It's private, so there's no, kind of big tech surveillance going on there. It's give us the opportunity to just build very, very important relationships and build communities, which is, in my opinion, the most important part of being prepared is having a strong community, because you cannot go at this alone. You absolutely can't. So if you want to sign up and get on the wait list for that, we're launching it in the next couple of weeks, and you'll get an email as soon as the doors open, and you'll get all the details of it. But right now, just go to buildthearc.com, and it's ARK with a ARC, buildthearc.com. Put in your name and your email, and we'll get you on that wait list to join. All right, so diving into this, so I've put together an actual presentation, which is just a new format for me, and looking at actually doing presentations. Typically, I just kind of look through web pages and look at Twitter and do videos and stuff. I actually put together a little bit of a presentation for you. So I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think about it. Honestly, let me know, whether you hate it or you love it. In the comments, let me know what you think about this format overall. So I call this presentation Digital IDs and the Death of Freedom, an urgent warning to humankind. And I'm going to start with this good quote from this book that we are all too familiar with, 1984. Big Brother is watching you. And if you've read 1984, you'll understand exactly what it's talking about. If you haven't read it, I recommend it, or there's a film about it as well. George Orwell saw what was coming. He saw what a technocratic society would look like. And this book is a warning. You also say it's a documentary in many ways. And so we're going to start, though, with just a short, a few minute long video. And I think this video was produced with AI. So you'll see there's a few, kind of the typical AI quirks that you might see of, various things. However, it's very, very well done. I'm not sure exactly who made it. If you're the maker of this, let me know, and I'll make sure I credit for you the next show. But this is it's a few minutes long, this video called The Future with CBDCs. And this does a good job of showing not just what CBDCs are, but this illustrates the entire technocratic grid. And of course, later in the show, we'll be looking at China and giving real world examples. But I'll play this first just to have you watch this. It's a few minutes long. There's a few swear words in it. So if you have kids watching, just be mindful of that. Anyway, check this out.
Good morning, citizens. Your overnight account balances have been updated. Time to start a productive day. Final notice, your account balance is below 500. You need 50 credits by the end of the day to avoid automatic eviction. If you have missed work due to illness, you must provide a doctor's note to reclaim your credits.
Any extra credits? Please.
Tensions are high today, with more people planning to join the Citizens Against Digital Control protest. Remember, the government knows who you are at all times. Resisting is not worth the consequences. All of their newest social credit systems are designed to keep you and your families safe and efficient.
Authorities seized a record balance of an individual's credits, citing excessive hoarding.
Traffic violation detected. 7 miles per hour over the limit. 75 credits have been automatically deducted.
You have to be fucking kidding me.
Yep, you got the flu. Your blood work shows a significant iron deficiency. I recommend incorporating more red meat into your diet.
Dr. Jones, your taxes were not filed and have been automatically deducted with late fees. Your medical license has been revoked.
Oh, hell nah, I filed an extension.
Purchase denied. Monthly red meat allowance exceeded. Try mealworms instead.
Can you guys please let me through?
Attention. Unauthorized political gathering detected. Participants' access to financial services has been suspended. Due to the speeding infraction, your car will be immobilized for 3 days.
Fuck you! Take your surveillance policies and rot in hell!
You've earned 50 bonus credits for reporting your neighbor's hateful misconduct. This content exceeds your current social credit tier. May we suggest citizen responsibility? Sarah, open the door. You have been identified by the authorities. Don't resist. Don't resist. Don't resist.
So there you go. It's harsh, but that's what life currently looks like in China for a lot of people. But this is the plan. No, just the plan. It's not a given this will happen. I think that we can resist it. I think there's ways that we can make it so it doesn't happen. But this shows what the cabal, what the elites, whatever you want to call them, the social engineers, this shows what they want to do with our lives, to give them complete control. So continuing the presentation. So I have what I call the 5 pillars of technocracy. It's really important we understand that these 5 pillars, right? Very, very important, because this is what breaks down the entire system for how they can control us. So we have digital ID, track and trace surveillance, biometric monitoring, social credit systems, and central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. So first, let's look at digital ID. It says the foundation of technocracy is a universal digital ID that becomes your passport to every aspect of life. Without it, you're locked out of society. So as a single ID that controls access to services, it's linked to your banking, to your healthcare, to traveling, voting. It's government issues. It's not optional. And really the whole idea is that no ID means no participation in their society. And you can see it's exactly what's happening in the UK right now. So I'm going to play a short video. It's about a minute and a half or so. It was with Keir Starmer. This was just announced. So watch this, because this is him explaining this digital ID system they're rolling out in the UK. Now, according to them in their research, the public is excited about it. The public wants to have this. We know how these research think tanks work, though. So watch this.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that. Because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, they want us to tackle the issues that they see around them. And of course, the truth is, we won't solve our problems if we don't also take on the root causes. Mark Carney, who stormed to victory. For too many years, it's been too easy for people to come here, slip into the shadow economy, and remain here illegally. Because, frankly, we've been squeamish about saying things that are clearly true. It's not just that it's not compassionate left-wing politics to rely on labour that exploits foreign workers and undercuts fair wages, but the simple fact that every nation needs to have control over its borders. We do need to know who is in our country. Our immigration system does need to be fair if we want to maintain that binding contract that our politics is built on.
So an important thing to note here, and I'll get into this a little more, is that this is problem, reaction, solution. So the same politicians that open the borders and let mass immigration happen and let all these illegals come in, especially over in Europe, but also here in America, you see spikes in crime and rape and vandalism and theft. And they're saying once it's so obvious it's a problem, it's like now the solution is not strong borders, it's not fixing the immigration policies that have allowed that. It's bringing in a digital ID. Of course, right? They create the problem, we have the reaction, and they give us the solution, which is a loss of our freedoms. But continuing though, because going back to that first slide, right? Digital ID, it's linked to banking, healthcare, travel, voting, and so much more. So what? Healthcare. What about your vaccine status? Right? So here's a video. This is from the World Economic Forum. Listen to what this guy has to say.
This issue to do with the technology and the digital infrastructure, I just want to emphasize how important I think that is. Because in the end, you need the data. You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be there'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure, and many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
So there you go. Again, going back to what was happening with COVID and the whole vaccine passport, digital ID stuff. They've pushed this. A lot of countries have pushed this very heavily. Like Australia, for one. But here you can see they want to bring about this digital ID. It starts with the digital ID, right? Oh, it's just this digital ID. It's free. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. It's free. That's so kind and compassionate. But then it gets linked to everything, right? And then it becomes, oh, well, if you got your next booster, well, you can't enter a public place, as we'll see what's happening in China right now. This is how it works. This is how it works. And what you have to look for, though, is look at what are the earlier steps that lead to this. Okay, you can see it's immigration-based, it's healthcare-based. But what we're also seeing now is that there is a push to having some sort of digital ID that's tied to your online profile to cut down on misinformation. And you can see it being rolled out with a lot of pornography sites. Now, of course, I mean, personally, I think that pornography should just be illegal. I think it should be outright illegal around the world, especially in this country. Like, I think it serves no good to the public. But that's a whole different discussion. But what they're doing is they're starting to pass these laws saying that, hey, if you want to visit this, say, Pornhub, for instance, you have to have your ID verified. But then the question is that if you have to have it verified to visit that site, you're verifying through some other third-party system. So it's much bigger than just going to that particular website. Where's that data stored? And here's our favorite guy, Bill Gates. Let's see what he has to say about this. Him talking specifically about the need for digital IDs for controlling disinformation online. So here's what Bill has to say about it.
Well, the boundary between crazy but free speech versus misleading people in a dangerous way or inciting them is a very tough boundary. In my case, some of it's even, kind of funny, like that, I'm using chips to track people, although because you're anonymous online, it can be worse. I do think over time, with things like deep fakes, most of the time you're online, you're going to want to be in an environment where that people are truly identified, that is, they're connected to a real-world identity that you trust instead of just people saying whatever they want. I don't think in the future you'll want to get mail that comes from an anonymous source, because whatever you see there might be designed just to mislead you. And so the idea of provenance, who sent me this email, was that really them? We're going to have systems and behaviors that we're more aware of, okay, who says that? Who created this?
There you go. To protect us from online scams and deep fakes and misinformation. Again, problem, reaction, solution. Here I've got a short video with Whitney Webb, who is one of the people on the forefront of talking about the dangers of digital ID. So here's a short interview, a minute or two long, with her, doing a good job of explaining how this whole system works.
Ultimately, the goal is to herd people into manufacturing consent for some sort of digital ID system, with the goal of having that system being connected to all of your internet access through your internet service provider or ISP, and also to your social media account, with the goal of really having you have a formal government ID linked profile of everything you read and consume online. All of these global policy agendas that are somehow being implemented in lockstep globally obviously have a transnational group behind them. I think that's quite clear. And there's no shortage of cheerleaders for that agenda in the United States, whether it's team left or team right. And the same is true elsewhere. It's just really the sales pitches to get people to adopt them are different. So, on the right, it's being framed as a way to stop illegal immigration. On the left, it's being framed as a way to stop hate speech and stop cyberbullying online and protect children and all sorts of things like that, really just looking for whatever metric sticks with whatever demographic they want to placate ultimately. So there's several groups that are behind it. A lot of it ultimately goes back, if you look at, some of these entities that sort of first kickstart the digital ID push under the auspices of the United Nations, like the ID 2020 Alliance, which has now been folded into another alliance with essentially all of the same funders. But ultimately, ID 2020 was started by, groups like Microsoft, the Rockefeller Foundation, Accenture, some of these big multinational corporations, or in the case of the Rockefeller Foundation, the philanthropic arms of oligarchic clans that have tried to create a global system of financial control in private hands.
Yeah, there you go. So she goes on, and if you're not following her, you should, because she's been screaming from the rooftops about this. But here you can see, as I'm going to continue showing in this presentation, that say a couple of years ago, these were much more conspiratorial discussions. 10 years ago, very conspiratorial. But the last year, especially last 6 months, we're seeing a massive increase in this push. And again, that's what I try to do on the show. I try to look for the patterns. I try to look for what are the bigger picture things happening. That's why I don't cover a lot of the DC politics or the he said, she said, or hey, can you believe what this celebrity's kid said? They testified about this. And those are, again, they're important issues, but I'm focused on what is the very, very giant thing, that the looming freight train that's coming down upon us. And it's this system. It's absolutely this system. So continuing with the presentation, first we had digital ID. Next one is biometric monitoring. So the technocrats demand constant verification through your body itself, your face, your voice, your fingerprints. Those are the keys to existence. So we're talking facial recognition at checkpoints and apps, iris, eye scan, fingerprints, voice authentication, continuous scanning in public and online. Your body becomes your password. This is what's key. It's the biometric tying. It's that image. It's the again, your body is your password. So everything is tied to your body. It's not like you log in with the password. It's how many people have an iPhone and use your face scan to unlock it. It's really convenient, but that's exactly what this technology is. All right. So starting October 12th. So the EU, they're rolling out, again, starting, I think, next week or week and a half, a new entry-exit system for the EU. So basically anyone coming into the EU, it says this is the first time we cross an EU border. Sorry, the first time that you cross an EU border from October 12th, a facial photo and 4 fingerprints will be collected for storage on an EU biometric database. So here you go. Right here, this is actually a screenshot from the actual presentation, the press release. It says the first time you travel under the new system, it may take a little longer to border control. That's because your biometric data, a photo of your face and 4 fingerprints will be collected. It only happens once. Okay, so they're starting this. Now, what we just saw in Vietnam, and this is insane, but again, this is where it goes. So in Vietnam, they have around 100 million people in Vietnam. So they put in a rule saying that any bank account in Vietnam needs to be biometrically verified. So if you want to have a bank account, so here in America, if you can actually go online and open a bank account. You have to put in your social security number and everything, but you can do that online because we're not there yet. But in Vietnam, they just shut down 86 million bank accounts. Okay? Here again. So in Vietnam, there's about 100 million people. They had around 200 million bank accounts. So they said that, okay, if you have a bank account in Vietnam, if you don't, by this certain deadline, get your biometric data input into the system and tied to your bank account gets shut down. They shut down 86 million bank accounts in Vietnam because these people that own the bank accounts didn't comply with the biometric system. Now, I'm sure some of those bank accounts were fraudulent. Maybe a small number of them were fraudulent. They were being used for illicit activities. But how many weren't? How many were from people that just didn't want to comply to that system? And all of a sudden now, their bank account's gone. This is why, for me, I'm a big believer in physical silver, right? Off-grid assets, gold and silver, things that don't get tied to your bank account, because even your bank account, as you can see. And if you think this isn't coming to America, it is. Now, hopefully we can resist it and it won't be successful, but the writing is on the wall. So continuing there is track and trace surveillance. So pillar 3, track and trace surveillance. Every movement, purchase, and interaction is tracked and logged into a vast surveillance network that never sleeps. Millions of cameras, drones, and sensors, GPS and phone location tracking, AI scans your speech, behavior, and patterns. Nothing is private. Everything is monitored. Now here in America, this is being rolled out. So ICE is now using Immigration OS by Palantir, Peter Thiel's company, which is very cozy with the Trump administration, a new AI system to track immigrants' movements. So again, it always starts in the problem area first. The same thing we're seeing in the UK. Hey, we need to have this digital ID to protect ourselves from the dangerous illegal immigration that they opened the borders for. So here in the United States, though, they're already using it. The ICE is now, I think it was actually in was it September, I think, is when it was actually going to be starting to be used. They got a $30 million contract that they're using this already. This Immigration OS, which is an AI system to track and trace people across the nation. Of course, it starts with the illegal immigrants, but how long is it before it comes to us? Look at what happened post 9/11, the Patriot Act. Oh, it's to protect us from terrorists. And all of a sudden you realize, wait, they're treating me like a terrorist. So it starts off with, oh, it's to protect us from the illegal immigrants. But then you look at it and say, wait, why am I being treated the same way as those illegal immigrants were a year ago? It keeps going. Okay, pillar 4, the social credit and AI control. So using the data gathered, the government score the citizen behavior, rewarding obedience and punishing dissent in real time. So good behavior unlocks privileges. Bad behavior means travel bans, job loss, public shaming, and blacklists. And AI decides what is allowed or forbidden. And once we look into what's happening in China, you'll see this. It's shocking what's happening in China with this. Don't worry, though. It's coming here. Here's a short video from Larry Ellison, who basically is now in many ways the owner of TikTok, very cozy with the Trump administration. Here he's talking about how he wants to build an AI surveillance system to keep us safe. Watch this, maybe a minute or so long. I'll let him speak. He does a better job explaining it than I do.
The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras, it's AI that's looking at the camera. No, you can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be immediately, that's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm is going to go off, it's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised
So that's even more frightening, though, because what he's talking about is every police officer being supervised by AI and everything being recorded. So citizens will be on their best behavior because everything is recorded. And the thing is that if you look at the progression of this is not possible without AI, because you have to have AI constantly monitoring all of this data. Why do you think in America they're building these massive AI data centers? Why is it that on the second day of Trump's term, he's out on stage with Larry Ellison and Sam Altman, 2 of 3 people that are on stage with him, talking about, a $500 billion investment in Project Stargate, which was to build AI data centers. This is the infrastructure, okay? So for people that think, oh, we're safe here in America. No, President Trump's going to protect us. Well, even if President Trump has the best of intentions, he's building the groundwork for the next person to come in and use this all as a weapon against us. Even if for the next, say, 3.5 years, it's being used to protect us. After that, whoever gets in, the same weapon can be pointed directly at us. And so if you look at that, you look at the massive AI infrastructure being built here in America. Larry Ellison is describing it. It's a system that will be able to monitor and track every single movement, every single action. So you don't even need the police. They're just going to be enforcing the orders of the AI. Everything feeds into that digital system. It's frightening. But then when you bring in the 5th pillar, which is a central bank digital currency, CBDCs, this is it. This is the end game. So the final level of control, the final lever of control is programmable money, issued, tracked, and restricted by central banks at will. Every transaction tracked and recorded, instant freezing of non-compliant accounts, spending limits or location restrictions, expiring funds to force behavior, and extends beyond currency into the tokenization of all assets. And it's something that's happening. If you look at what's happening at the higher levels of central banks, the BIS, they're working on programs to tokenize everything. What does that mean? That all of your assets are tokenized. It's not just your central bank digital currency. It's not just the numbers that show up in your digital wallet that get docked if you get a speeding ticket. No, it extends beyond that to all assets, everything that you own. This is their end game, is that everything you own will become have a digital token associated it, when that token becomes part of a massive control system. So they can shut off your power if they want to. They can turn your car off if they want to. They can seize your home if they want to, because all of these assets become part of a digital system. Again, that's why I'm a big fan of gold and silver, because as of right now, you can still buy them and they're not tokenized, right? You could have 1,000 ounces of silver buried in your backyard that they're not going to know about. And the thing is that what we'll get into towards the end of this is like, okay, what use is that in the future? If they roll out a CBDC, what use is your silver? Well, that's where you get into parallel economies and everything, which is really important, which we'll be getting into. But tokenization, this is a recent article. This is from October 2nd. So the CEO of Robinhood, a major stock company, stock app, says the tokenization of real world assets is an unstoppable freight train coming to major markets. Again, the tokenization of real world assets. What does that mean? Tokenization, meaning that this mouse, this little purple mouse my wife bought, I didn't buy the purple mouse, that this would have a digital token. So they would know in a central AI controlled database that Seth Holhouse has a purple mouse. And if he does something wrong, they're going to seize control of the purple mouse. It's all going to be centralized. It's all going to be tokenized. So here's a video of Catherine Austin Fitts describing what it looks like living in a society controlled by a central bank digital currency and how threatening that is.
All the great work that you have done in health and all the great work you have done in food to preserve food and health freedom, the minute they get financial transaction control, they will delete all of it. They will negate all of it. They will reverse all of it. Financial control and controlling the financial transaction train tracks is the meta control that they will use to control food and health. So I don't care what you're doing in the food and health area, If these guys get 100% digital system with a digital ID and programmable money, guess what? They're going to dictate, you don't get your vaccine this month, they're going to turn off your money. You don't transgender your kid, they're going to turn off your money.
Wow.
They're going to dictate all of your health and food policies to you. So we did a wonderful report in Solari called Pharma Food on lab-grown meat and essentially artificial food. And when I read it, I couldn't understand, how did they think they're going to market this? And that's when I realized, oh, programmable money is how they're going to market.
And that's a key point. I'll get into that a little bit later, though. We've all seen these, the push for the Impossible Meats and Beyond Burgers, and it's like, okay, who's going to eat that stuff? Well, the thing is that if they get their control system, you will be eating it because you won't be allowed to buy beef. This is why it's such an important part of this process to meet your local farmers. Figure out how you can source your food and your meats and your vegetables. Ideally, you're growing them on your own land, but you got to build relationships locally. And we'll get into that more later. Okay, now I want to take a look, though, at China. Okay, we talked about the bigger picture, what's happening. We've shown some patterns, the emergence of this technology, the elites talking about it. We're going to look at the real world example of China. But one thing I want to say, this is just kind of quickly here, is that in my interview recent with David Jensen, which you should watch, it gets into this stuff actually, I saw some comments about, oh, Seth, you're so doom and gloom, and why are you're so doom and gloom, right? I see this oftentimes, right? You'll say, oh, you're black pilled or doom and gloom. Look, I hope I'm wrong. Honestly, I hope that everything I'm talking about never happens. I hope that it's not going to come to America. But the problem is that every sign that I see is showing that this is where things are headed. And so if this presentation scares you, good. Hopefully it shocks you and it wakes you up, because there's so many Americans that if you talk to them about the threat of central bank digital currency or digital IDs, they're like, oh, come on, you're worried too much, or you've been watching too much Alex Jones, or, you spend too much time alone listening to podcasts. That's the average person in America. They are absolutely oblivious to this. And, let me know in the comments, but you're probably used to this. Where you tell your family, you're warning your family about this information, and they're just like, oh, dude, come on, man. You're getting too into these conspiracies and stuff. Like, you always think the government's after you. I hope that you can show them this video and say, hey, check out this guy, Seth. He put together this whole presentation. If you can watch this entire show and think, don't worry about it, then hey, good on you for being able to bury your head so far in the sand that you can't see the freight train coming right down the tracks towards you. But I feel like it's my job to warn. I feel like I'm like on the street with a sign saying, repent, like the end is near, right? And I don't think the end is near. I think there's so many things that we can do to prevent this, but we have to be aware of it, which is why I'm not scared of people saying, oh, Seth, you're a doom and gloom person. It's like, no, it's my job to come out here and warn you about these things, because this is such a massive threat to our future. It's a threat to our freedoms. Like, what world are our children going to grow up in? A world where they're scanning their iris at every stop, and they have to scan their face, and they're forced to get their jabs. That's not the world I want my kids to grow up in. But the thing is, if we ignore these things and think that it's just going to be good because it always has been, we fall into that complacency and that normalcy bias that, well, hey, things will be normal because they always have been normal. And if COVID wasn't enough of a wake-up call for people, then I don't know what is, but we need to be looking at this stuff. But anyway, so I want to look at China now, because China, this is a real world example. Like, all the stuff that I've talked about right now is already happening in China. So it's a great case study of how life is in a system where you're absolutely controlled, where the CCP has an iron grip over everybody. It doesn't matter what you're, who you are. And actually, they use it against you. So whether you say you're an underground Christian in China, they're tracking you, and they know exactly what you're doing. Or say you're a Falun Gong practitioner, and they're tracking for organ harvesting. This stuff is all happening currently in China. All right, so let's look at how this is happening right now in China. So, okay, digital ID. So in China, every citizen is bound to a single digital ID that dictates what they can and cannot do. Without it, you're nobody. So there's mandatory real name registration for internet use, Bill Gates' dream. This digital ID is required for banking, healthcare, education. It's linked to every official record and database. If you don't have the ID, no travel, no services, no existence. The biometric monitoring in China. Cameras are watching every face, every step. Your body is constantly scanned, identified, and filed away. There's over 600 million cameras in China with AI facial recognition. They have biometric scans to enter buildings, subways, and even restrooms. Right? Even the gait recognition. So the AI recognizes how you walk. And so it knows who you are by your gait and how you walk. It's tracking you everywhere. Okay, look at this right here. Children in China can't, and this is in the regions where this is implemented, I'm sure it's not every single school, they can't enter school or buy lunch without facial recognition and central bank digital currency. Welcome to the Matrix. Watch this short video here. There's some kind of cheesy music behind it. It's the opposite of what the video makes you think. But anyway, watch this. This is China. This is kids going to school. Every kid having to scan their face just to enter into their school campus. And they're so used to it by now. So here's the kids getting their lunch. Before any kid is given their lunch, they have to scan their face. This is what modern day communism looks like. It's technocracy. And the problem is these poor little kids, they don't even know what's happening. They don't even know what it is. All right, surveillance. Okay. So in China, there's surveillance. Nothing is private. Every purchase, every message, every movement is captured and stored by the state. So they have AI cameras monitoring public spaces 24/7. Phones are tracked via GPS and mobile networks. Online activities is directly tied to your ID. And entire neighborhoods are watched with predictive policing. I've got some more videos that keep showing of this. Their social credit score system. So obedience is rewarded, dissent is punished. Your score determines your freedom, your exile. Low scores ban citizens from trains and flights. You're blacklisted for debt, criticism, or untrustworthy behavior. Children of bad citizens are blocked from top schools, and public shaming lists broadcast offenders' names and faces. So I had two videos to show you here.
Today in China, there are some 600 million surveillance cameras, one for every 2 citizens, able to track people's movements down to the minute.
Every street corner, there's facial recognition, there's digital recognition, there's the social credit system. The social credit system is the sort of highest aspiration of the Chinese Communist Party, to have everything every human being does go into a computer system. And with AI and all sorts of other sophisticated programming, you can know exactly where a person is because he'll have bought something with a credit card or a digital payment system. His car will have gone down a highway. Every kilometer, there's a camera taking pictures of your license plate. They will know everything about everybody real time. This creates a kind of a techno-autocratic system that's unprecedented and with which we've had no experience.
So this next video is even more shocking. Just watch this. This is kind of real life of what things are like in China. Just check this out.
Dandan's criminal, academic, and medical records will feed into her score, as well as state security assessments. Her shopping habits will be another measure. Her score could even change in real time, depending on what she puts in her trolley. Buy a lot of alcohol suggests dependence. Lose a couple of points. Buy a pack of nappies, gain a few, suggests responsibility. Late on mortgage payments or your tax return, lose a lot more.
So again, even it's tracking at the grocery stores, looking what people are buying. So if you buy some diapers, if you buy alcohol, even when they were much more strict with their one-child policy before they opened it up, they were using these systems to track if women were pregnant and they weren't supposed to be. So it was tracking, even based upon purchase and everything, the AI was tracking a woman's menstrual cycle And so the AI knew, based upon a woman's behavior and her shopping behavior, it would know if she was pregnant. Now, what they were doing before is that if she was found to be pregnant, and if it was known in the system that she already had her maximum number of children that she had, very commonly that she'd be walking down the street, she'd get taken away and given a forced abortion. I'm not kidding. I've done extensive research into this stuff in China. Like it's literally happening right now in China. And there's people, they have set the whole neighborhood watch stuff. So if you report on your neighbors, and this is what's also they're rolling out with the new digital ID in the UK, that you can report on your neighbors if they're making a mess, if they've left trash. You can actually flag your neighbors. Like this is communism like 2.0 in the digital era, where they're getting people to turn on their own families. It's absolutely criminal. And so the final pillar 5 in China, central bank digital currency, CBDC, they have the digital yuan. This is still kind of in its kind of rollout phase. We're saying money itself has become a tool of control. And in China, the digital yuan is designed not to serve the people, but to control them. Every transaction monitored by the state. There's pilot programs with expiring digital vouchers, spending restricted to approved categories, right? Hey, you've had too much red meat this month, and funds can vanish or be frozen with one click. Okay? It's beginning to be rolled out in China. It's all tied in. So looking at this, if China is the pilot country, is China the pilot country? If so, then who's next? Well, we can see, right? Obviously in Europe, this is happening. In other countries, you're seeing it being rolled out in India. You're seeing it obviously being rolled out in Vietnam, as we talked about the bank accounts being canceled, areas in South America. You're seeing a lot of these same technologies being rolled out here in America. But I also want to bring your attention to what's called the C40 cities, because this is even more frightening. Again, I don't want to be like a fear monger, but like this is real, folks. Okay, so C40 is a globalist initiative where they're tapping in on the city level with the mayors. So it says around the world, C40 mayors and the cities they lead are taking ambitious, collaborative, and urgent climate action that aligns with science-backed targets. They work together across borders in order to protect people and communities everywhere and build a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future. That paragraph is littered with global communist language, equitable future, resilient, sustainable, science-backed targets, collaborative and urgent climate action. Okay, so they're already rolling a lot of these things out in these C40 cities. And I'm going to show you one of the reports that shows what some of their end goals are by 2030, and it's frightening. So where are these cities currently at? Well, here's a map of all the cities around the world that are currently signed on to be C40 cities. Here's a list of some of the more prominent places. I know it's kind of small there, so I'll read some of this. So North America, Austin, Texas, Boston, Chicago, Houston, LA, Miami, Montreal, New Orleans, New York City, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, Seattle, Toronto, Canada. This is North America. Vancouver, Washington, D.C. In Europe, Amsterdam, Athens, Barcelona, Berlin, Copenhagen, London, of course, East, Southeast Asia, Oceania, Auckland, New Zealand, Bangkok, Thailand, Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, Australia, and then all over in China. So this is already being rolled out. So if you live in one of these cities, just be warned. So this is their C40 cities report, which shows a lot of their goals by 2030. So in these cities, these are the goals for these cities by 2030. Now you remember what Catherine Austin Fitts said. When she saw this rollout of the lab-grown meat and the bug protein, she thought, who's going to be doing this? And she realized, if they control your spending, if they control your money, they control what you're eating. And they can stop you. Just like in that video I showed at the very beginning, that woman, she wanted to buy some red meat and said, no, you've hit your limit, so you got to buy mealworms. Well, the thing is, if you can't buy red meat, you're gonna eat their worms. Like if that's the only option you have. Again, that's why you got to meet your local farmers. So these are actual screenshots from this report from the C40 cities. So this is food. Okay, their progressive target in 2030 and their ambitious target in 2030. So I'll look at their ambitious target in 2030. Their ambitious target in 2030 is 0 kilograms of meat consumption. So in these cities, New York City, San Francisco, Melbourne, Australia, their target is 0 meat consumption per person. Their target for dairy is 0 kilograms of milk or derivative equivalent per person per year. Their goal is to stop you from eating anything real. Real meat, real milk. This is it. This is their own report. Okay, I showed you. This is a report. You can go find it for yourself. Look it up. Okay, what about clothing? Their target by 2030 is that each person gets 3 new clothing items per year to cut down on waste. 3 new clothing items. So you have to ask yourself, how would they possibly achieve this? Who's possibly going to say, you know what, I will only get 3 pieces of clothing per year because I love the climate so much. It doesn't matter what you love, because if they control your money, this is what you're going to be doing. Unless you start entering into parallel economies, this is what you're stuck in. Vehicle ownership. By 2030, they want 0 private vehicles. They don't want you to own your own car. They do not want you to own your own private vehicle. Their goal by 2030 in those cities is 0 private vehicles. It's here. This is it right here. You can look at the report yourself. Okay, flights. Their goal by 2030 is 1 short haul flight every 3 years per person. So if you have family that live, a 10-hour flight away, they want it so that you get 1 flight every 3 years. That's it. This is insane. This is this is prison. This is enslavement of mankind. So I've got another video here to show you, which I think this is what describes the end game. This woman, she kind of walks you through what the end game looks like for this.
The United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development. It is the inventory and control plan. Inventory and control of all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all food, all energy, all information, and all human beings in the world. And this is a plan that was agreed to by 179 nations back in 1992. It's a United Nations plan. It's called the Agenda for the 21st Century. And so many of us around the world think that sustainable development, it just sounds so great. Isn't it about recycling and creative reuse and creating energy and food resources for everyone? And the answer is no. It really is not. It's about moving populations into city centers, concentrated city centers, and clearing them out of the rural areas. It's constructed of non-governmental organizations, corporations, and government in order to dictate and regulate what it is that happens around the world. Regionalization is the stepping stone to globalization. And globalization is the standardization of all systems. All systems have to be brought into harmony in order to control them all. And the goal of Agenda 21 is one world government and total control from a central unit. The principles are public-private partnerships, which is fascism. And this is how it's implemented on the ground, is through this joining together between corporations, non-governmental organizations, and governments in order to cut out the actual individual, your voter, and instead to take that to a level where we literally cannot penetrate. This is a corporatocracy. It's a totalitarian state being developed right now all over the world while we are moving towards the end game. We are not there. And this is the opportunity that all of us have now to stand up, to speak out. We are free, and we need to continue to be free. And I do believe that we will win, but we have to become aware that there is a fight.
And she finishes on a very important point. How can we stop this? One, I guess you could say, is that I believe this can be stopped. I absolutely believe it. I believe it can stop. It won't be easy, but it can be stopped. It won't be comfortable, but it can be stopped. How do we do it? We do not comply. That's it. We do not comply. Now, what gives us the ability to not comply? I think the very first thing is knowledge and information. And that's why I put together this presentation. That's why I hope that you can share this presentation with as many people as possible, because people need to see what this actually is. It's always a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's always presented as something good. It's good for the environment. It's good for the national security. It's going to protect us from the illegal immigrants. It's going to help reduce the carbon emissions. We have to first see it for what it is. And once you see it for what it is, it's really easy to say, I'm not complying. I will not join into that world. And that's why I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you and paint a picture of what life will look like if you comply with this system. And hopefully this presentation has allowed you to see that A, this is what it looks like, and B, it's coming. But I believe it's a battle of good and evil, and I believe that we have free will. And I think that the evil knows this. They know that we have free will. And this is why they have to be so careful and so manipulative in how they do things, because they have to get us to actually buy into it. They have to get us to accept it. They have to get us to say, okay, I'll wear the mask. Hey, it's for the good of my neighbor. I'll get my second jab. It's for the good of grandma. They have coerced us and they've tricked us into accepting this system. And so the single most important thing that we can do is just say no. Just say, I will not comply to that system. Now, it might be difficult. Back when COVID was around and they had the vaccine mandates, a lot of people lost their jobs or got kicked out of the military because they refused to comply with those mandates. But here in America, no one was held down and forcefully injected. You still had free will. Even if your free will meant you're going to lose your job, you still have the free will. And so that's why I think the number one thing we can do is to just not comply, to not accept this system. Now, that's going to be difficult, especially in certain regions. Like if you're in the UK and it says you can't work because that's a tough place to be in. And I'm here in America, it's easy to say I wouldn't comply. It's hard to, what if you're the breadwinner for your family and you're already struggling? Like, that's tough, right? But the thing is that if enough of us say that we won't comply, the system won't work. It won't work. And now getting into, say, parallel economies and bartering and everything outside. So if they roll out central bank digital currency, which I believe is absolutely the goal, I think it's part of the end game. We have to have our own financial independence from their systems. Again, that's why I'm a big believer in silver and gold. Bitcoin, crypto, I'm not a fan of it. I think that the government is still behind it. I think that it's absolutely trackable and traceable. It's my own opinion, though. That's why I don't own crypto. But the thing is that if you start building your own local communities and you know where you get your meat from, you know that, hey, this farmer, they've got good cows and so even if they put these restrictions on and you say, hey, because again, if you're someone that you only go to your local Walmart to buy your meat and Walmart then rolls this out and you have to scan your passport in, you have to scan your digital ID to get your meat, and they say you've hit your meat quota, they're going to control you if that's how you're shopping. I'm sorry. It's just like there's no way around it. But if right now you're building relationships and you know who your local farmer is and you talk to them and say, because I've talked to local farmers I work with, I've had these conversations with them, okay, and they won't comply, right? So if I say, hey, Billy Farmer, like in the future, would you take silver? Can I give you, silver ounce, 1 ounce rounds in exchange for meat? I say, absolutely. So that's the thing, we have to build these parallel economies outside of these systems. And again, it's not going to be easy for a lot of people. But do whatever you can. And I think ultimately, this being a battle of good and evil, I guess your number one defense is just your faith, right? Stand strong in your faith, stand strong in your belief in God. Let that be. Say, look, God gave me these rights. I will not let man take these rights away. If you come from that place, you're going to have a lot of strength going into this battle. But We have to stand strong. We have to resist. We have to build relationships. We have to build communities. We have to know who our neighbors are. We have to educate the people around us. Again, this presentation or any other resources that you can find, share them with your friends and family. Get them aware of what this is. You say, hey, look, this is the beast system we were warned about. This is it. This is the mark of the beast system that we have been warned about for thousands of years. Are you going to comply? Because I'm not going to comply. I'm not going to comply. Build that strength, right? And if you don't know people close to you, say your family, like they reject every ounce of this, build other communities. Find other people. Again, that's one of the big reasons why I'm launching the ARC community, right? Again, buildthearc.com. Go, drop in your name and your email, sign up for it. Once it launches, the ARC community is going to be able to give you a private community where you can access people. You can find people based upon location. You can find people in your area. You can join your local chapter. And you can build these relationships with people that are going to stand by your side and support you and help you. Absolutely head there. And again, big thing, money. Get your money off their system. Right? We saw Vietnam, 86 million bank accounts shut down. What happens when that comes to America? We've already seen look at Canada with the truckers. They're already weaponizing the financial system against us. So if you've got gold and silver, great. If you don't, now's the time to think about it, right? Whether it's an IRA transfer or just, buying something at the local coin shop. Another one. I will say that I have a website here that if you need someone, if you're looking for a place you can buy gold and silver that's been vetted. Personally, I work with Noble Gold. I trust them. I know the owner. He's a patriot. He's a great guy, Colin Plume. Go to goldwithseth.com. You can call them up. You can fill out the form. You can get gold delivered directly to you, silver. You can just make a purchase for it. You can also do IRA transfers. So you can do a transfer over that way. That's goldwithseth.com. It's in the description as well below. Anyways, these are all things. These are my suggestions, right? And I'm going to be doing more shows. I got my book coming out, Prep Like Noah, coming out. I'm going to be doing a lot more shows on preparedness and how to get yourself off grid, how to pull yourself out of the system, because I believe this is our way forward. We have to opt out of this system. Take more personal responsibility for everything around us. So then when they come in there and say, look, we're going to force you into this system, you say, I don't need your system. I've got my own system. It's local. I know where I get my meat from. I know where I get my milk from. It's local. They're going to have a hard time stopping that. And that's how we do it. We have to not comply en masse. That's how we do it. All right, that's the end of the presentation, end of the show. Thank you so much for being here tonight with me. Again, hopefully there's no kind of tech issues with this. Hope it all kind of played smooth for you. But stand strong. If this was if you enjoyed this, or if it scared you a little bit, but you think it's important, share this content with your friends and family. Please, we have to do this. We have to stick together. And all the links I talked about in the show today are in the description. So that's it. Take care. God bless. And I will see you